Thank you for watching and listening. My name is Mariana and I am the program lead for the World Habitat Awards.
Hi, I'm Abby and I'm the program manager for the World Habitat Awards and work with Mariana and Pierre.
Hello, I'm Pierre and I'm program manager too.
I'm Yves, and I've been sitting on the advisory groups examining the finalists for 16 years now. I've been working basically with countries, cities, movements, local governments in the south, and I'm a professor. And before that, I've been involved in projects and research and advocacy worldwide, I would say. And quite happy to be here with all this fantastic team of the World Habitat.
The World Habitat Awards have been running for over 35 years. We started with this in 1995 in collaboration with UN Habitat. By then, the idea of good practice, best practice, or good practice transfer was very new. Then many organizations started doing it, but since then we started the awards as a way of identifying good housing practice. The awards have changed a lot throughout time, but the essence is still the same. Identify housing pioneers, celebrate them, and help them grow and expand their impact. Those projects that receive a World Habitat Award, a Gold Award, will receive a cash prize of £10,000, a trophy, and also a program of support by World Habitat that lasts usually between 1 and 2 years. We also, apart from gold winners, select every year silver and bronze winners, and they are also recognized and invited to our celebration events. And they are becoming, as well as the gold winners, part of our network of World Habitat Awards winners that has people and programs from all the years that we have been running the competition. So we have over 300 organizations, really inspiring practices that come together every so often to transfer ideas and good practice.
At the beginning of each year, we start our call for entries to the World Habitat Awards. After the deadline, World Habitat assesses your application at different stages throughout the year to determine whether the application will proceed to the next round. If you don't progress at one of these stages, we'll send an email with feedback. And I think it's important to note that you shouldn't be disheartened or defeated if you do not get through to the next round, because we hope the feedback will be useful for you to resubmit in the future. And it is a very healthy competition with a lot of different applications. For those that do progress to the next stages, we ask clarifying questions throughout the process, including requesting additional photos and references. This information is really valuable to building a profile for your application. If you do progress to the final rounds, your applications will be evaluated by the advisory group of housing experts, who select the bronze winners and then the final 4 projects which World Habitat will visit. This is what we call the evaluation visits. From personal experience, we have seen that those evaluation visits have a lasting impact on the World Habitat staff, board, trustees, and advisory group who get to see your wonderful projects. Following these visits, we will submit reports to our judges, the Executive Director of UN Habitat and the UN former Special Rapporteur for Adequate Housing, Leilani Farha. From there, they will select the 2 Gold Award winners and the silver winners as well. The assessment process for the World Habitat Awards takes place throughout the year, with final decisions made in November, December. So it is a year-long process that we will assess your application and hopefully award your project. The awards recognize not just gold, but also silver and bronze awardees who receive varied degrees of support following the announcement. And if you would like more information on the World Habitat Awards process, you can look at our frequently asked questions on worldhabitat.org.
I've been trying to identify 5 or 6 elements which I think are quite important here. The first one is a balanced application touching on 3 main pillars: the innovation of it. What is the actual added value that your project is bringing worldwide or possibly nationally? The second aspect is the sustainability of the project. What its chances to be sustainable through time. So it means that it has to have a certain length in order to show these signs of sustainability. And the third one, it's its capacity of transfer. Because obviously at the center of this examination, we are looking for projects which have a possibility to inspire and be transferred to other communities, other countries, other cities. So balance these 3 elements. That's my number 1. Number 2, I would insist on gather good, clear, compelling evidence, and not only on the process, but on your results. How many houses have been built? How many lengths of water treatment have been done? You know, the results and the impact. So good, clear, compelling evidence. That's my second one. The number 3 is, it's essential in sustainability, is the appropriation by local actors. Not only by community themselves, but local governments, technicians, central governments, whatever. The number 4 that we usually value quite a bit is the use and the value of local technologies in its full sense. Not only techniques, you know, that we know in books, in scientific books, but know-how embedded in cultural tradition, you know. Strong artisans, small industries, showing us that this will have a long-lasting effect, you know. This valuing local technologies and local know-how. Usually, we see that in project, you have a strong local actor who is leading the process. So show how strong it is in leading the process. But it could be an NGO, a local government, a central government, whatever. But what we look into is the capacity of this actor to listen to strengthen a multi-actor participatory approach, spreading from one actor to many, many more. And all together, they can transform the reality and reach a good project. But usually with a community perspective all through the process. And the other value is show the humane dimension. The humane approach must transpire. So don't speak only to our mind, you know, as professionals or specialists in our field, but speak to our heart. And it's not easy in a formulation, you know. The project should speak to the heart. Because simply housing is about people under their huge diversity, aging population, people who have suffered a brain injury. I remember some projects on that, woman-headed households, homeless, refugees, and more we have application on climate displaced people suffering from the effect of the unfortunate climate changes. It could be young people. Probably one of the best contribution of the award has been its capacity to show and have this humane and people-centered dimension transparent. So don't be shy on that. Another element which I think is important is about the lessons learned. What have you learned? Don't try to be the best, because nobody is the best. You might be very good, but each one of us has the limitation. So do not hesitate to share your hesitations, the questions, the lessons that you have learned, and others will help you to find them. So don't try to be the best in all the categories. It's very difficult. this is how I would summarize what I feel all through these 15 years and more we've been looking at, or what we think actually that this can be a very good project, useful for humanity.
Early January, we announced the 2024 winners, which were selected during last year's assessment process, and we have 8 very diverse winners. We have first 2 gold winners, which are one is a partnership between a community mobilizing organization and a research center, which are working to secure housing rights in Jakarta, Indonesia. And the other one is a European Association of Companies which develop and implement deep energy saving retrofit techniques for housing. Then our 2 silver winners are the Ministry of Housing of Chile for a rural habilitation program, and the Swiss Student Cooperative, which provides affordable homes to its 800 members in Geneva, one of the most expensive cities in the world. Finally, we have 4 bronze winners this year. One is a Ukrainian NGO using vacant buildings to provide quality temporary homes to war refugees. Another one is England's first co-housing made by and for elderly women. Then we have a German cooperative housing provider which made a participatory regeneration of one of its large settlements from the 1970s. And finally, a community city forecasting and early warning service, which is used to prevent disasters in informal settlements in Kenya and in Tanzania.
One set of very innovative projects and approaches relate to all these components, to one of the components of the housing system, typically land. I think that one of the major contribution of the award has been to highlight incredible experiences related to land and security of tenure. Typically, I mean, the community, I remember in 2008, we had projects on community land trust, on non-private sort of ownership. And all through these years, I've seen a wide range of solutions related to probably one of the most difficult aspects, which is land. And community land trust have been increasingly gaining variety, refinement. So here we have something as an example. Another issue which has been dealt with very innovatively is related to finance. Public housing funds, mortgage solutions, solution of finance for the homeless, etc. Now, another range of things which are impressing me relates more to housing as a product, say building materials, services, energy, water, all these elements which make a good habitat, And one I selected today with this sort of preoccupation we have for the climate change approaches, and energy relates to energy. I've been amazed, frankly speaking, to see how energy, either to improve comfort at an affordable cost for the poor, has been essential. I remember liter of light, small bottles, which were allowing millions of people to get light in places where they had none, or energy-saving techniques, water-saving techniques that were reducing the consumption costs for the poor, enabling them maybe to pay their rent or to pay their mortgage, and at the same time benefiting the planet, floor heating in mud houses in Central Asia, plastic bottles filled with sand to build structures in the desert in refugee camps. So lots of, seems tiny, but essential sort of things, building technologies related to mud or straw bale, but at a large scale in some countries. Water sanitation packages, very partial solution, but essential for toilets, for providing water. which relates to emergency. What to do to face hurricanes, tsunami, which are growing in numbers. And here, it's astounding what has been done to face anticyclonic effects in Southeast Asia, for instance, tsunami, the Build Back Better approach, which is a very strong approach, which was at a time very impressive, building with local resources after earthquakes. So that's another set of I think, contribution of the award when you look at the project. And I would continue on something which is counterintuitive for many people, which is solutions not only to access home ownership, but renters, which are a little bit set aside in many policies, in many practices. And I think that's a string of solutions which show it is possible to improve the rental situations, which is striking a population. It can be mediation between families and individuals that owners are not accepting. It can be municipal rental housing, not having it as a national policy, and some fantastic transgenerational housing, mixing poor and age-old and youngsters, occupation of empty apartments, again, mediation by local governments, which are helping out those which are homeless to occupy empty buildings in large developments and avoiding, for instance, in some countries, the cartels and the mafia to occupy this. So it takes on quite a number of benefits. But I would be unfair not to say that I've been impressed about significant progress in some projects on neighborhood integrated approaches. Or even at city scale. So it's not only issue-based or system-based. It's an integrated approach. It can be in historical centers. I remember quite a number of them. It can be in rural communities, indigenous remote areas, low-income tenements, so a variety of communities, which I think that we have learned from. And sometimes we have been identifying true gems, where you have since water recycling, waste disposal, collective transport, green roofs with 1 hectare of green roofs. So you have all the elements sometimes which get together, and then what this it shows? It shows that it's possible, and I think that the award needs to have that in mind. And all those of you who want to present, show and share your solution. So far, it's amazing how, yes, we have solutions. There's another set of practices of projects which were presented and which went to the finalists and more, that relate to probably one of the most difficult issues today when you speak about housing. It's homelessness. Homelessness in the global South and the global North. So far, homelessness has not been eliminated, but it's very much in the heart of the jury, in the heart of the World Habitat. And I think that we still have to learn. But I would like to end up this sort of issue related of amazing solutions, simply saying that I'm convinced after all these years, 50 years in the field, I would say that solutions are possible. The solutions are in our hands. In the hands of politicians, but in the hands of practitioners, in the hands and minds and hearts of communities. But the solution will be only if we're able to learn from each other, to be humble enough to learn from each other, and to be humble enough to share our solutions, even if they are not perfect. This is very much the spirit of what I feel, and that's why I continue actively involved and admiring what is being done about all this. So let's learn together, let's build a common, and the World Habitat is contributing to building this common. And this is important for the future of the people in the planet. Now, in addition to these practices and outstanding programs, I would say that's the thread all through the award, which relates to housing rights. It can be promoting housing rights. It can be turning housing rights a reality. For instance, for people who have been recently evicted, how do you shift from a non-right to a right approach? It can be work of advocacy, transforming a policy into something much more open to those who could be potentially evicted, addressing rights of those who have not even civil rights. You know, how do you work for that? So this is a complex issue, but some of the projects have been truly bringing light on a central issue today is housing as a right and as a basic human right. And we cannot forget that at all.
Common questions and ideas that sometimes people have, which will be good to clarify. One in particular is when we're looking for outstanding housing projects, and what do we mean by that? Sometimes we had great people behind great projects that would think, oh, my project is too local or too small or too insignificant, and perhaps they are shy or too shy to put that forward. But actually, there are some great practices out there. We had amazing winners that come from very remote places, starting very small. And we're looking for that. We're looking for those early adopters, those game-changing projects that maybe are not yet mainstream, and we will later want to support them in that path. Maybe they don't have global impact, but they can show local impact. Maybe they can't use academic language on their application, and that's fine. We want to hear about game-changing practice. We want to hear about those pioneers, and it doesn't matter if your project is too small or not, or you think it's not shiny enough. We are looking for those ideas anywhere and in any sort of sizes. Another misconception that we have found sometimes is that we had applicants that are looking for funding. Of course, funding is a challenge for a lot of, or I would say all projects out there. And unfortunately, this is not the right place for that. So we have a small prize money that we give to gold winners, but that's not enough to get a project going. So if you are looking for project funding, this is not the right place for that. And we normally don't assess applications that are written with that intention. And the last point I want to highlight is that also we receive sometimes applications from projects that are at very early stages of development. So they are sometimes ideas or prototypes that cannot yet show any impact. Again, we are not looking at mainstream or global impact or big numbers, but we do need to see some sort of impact of the project working in the ground. So in those cases, we generally recommend those projects to wait a few years and reapply. So just to sum up, I would say good ideas, no matter how small or how insignificant you think they are, not looking for funding, and with some sort of achieved impact over time.
One of the things that I really notice about the World Habitat Awards process is that I think people put too much pressure on themselves about having applications written in perfect English, French, and Spanish. And what we actually tend to look for is very concise information that answers the questions directly. I don't think applicants need to put they don't need to put too much pressure on themselves, because what we like to see in the first iteration, which is the first application that people submit, is concise answers that directly answer the 10 questions we ask, as well as figures. But for any more detail, and if we have any questions, if the application progresses, we're going to contact that applicant directly. So sometimes we see in applications that applicants will feel pressure to copy and paste from reports or take information from elsewhere, but it may not answer the question directly. So what we really encourage is that however you want to present it, as long as you're answering the question directly, that will help us make the decision, and we can work with you on finessing or refining the language later on.
Guys, please make sure to include images, evaluation reports, or other studies about your projects, as well as testimonies from beneficiaries wherever possible. This really helps us to understand your project, because we're not going to go to visit it at the first part of the evaluation process. So all images and inputs, visual inputs are important for us, or links to videos or whatever you already have produced. You don't need to produce specific content, but this is really useful for us. And then if your project was elaborated in partnership with other organizations or local communities, for example, you can apply together, describing both organizations, how they work together in the first couple of questions of the form. So don't hesitate to put several organizations there if several organizations participated in the development of the project. And finally, a last recommendation: if you're working on several sites, or even in different countries with the same methodology or with similar contexts, you can mention several projects in a unique submission, explaining the link between the different projects, or what has been challenging in this or that other context. But you don't need to make separate applications. And then, of course, if you have really different projects that you want to submit, you can make separate applications for each project. And there is no maximum of submissions you can make in 1 year, so you can submit 2, 3, or more projects, and we will be assessing them.